Hello, thank you for clicking on the video. If you're new here, I appreciate stopping by and checking the video out. If you're a returning subscriber, also thank you, appreciate it. What I'd like to do today is do a book review of this book right here, which is The Art of Living, the Classical Manual on Virtue, Happiness, and Effectiveness by, I'm probably going to say this wrong, I've said it in other videos, I don't speak Greek and I'm really bad with names, Epictetus. And this is going to be a new interpretation by Sharon Lebell. It says new, it's from 1994, kind of 31 years old at this point. But I suppose in the grand scheme of things, it's still new. With that, Epictetus was born into slavery in what is now modern-day Turkey. He lived in Rome until he was banished, and then he spent the rest of his life in northwestern Greece in, if I recall correctly, Necropolis. He lived from 50 to 135 AD and died at the young age of 85. Epictetus believed that philosophy is a way of life and not simply a theoretical discipline. I agree with that. And if you only read and do not put the words into practice, what are you actually doing with it? If you read all these books on philosophy and you're not changing your worldview or strengthening your worldview and putting them into practice to make your life better for you and people around you, then what are you doing, right? It is a way of life, and it's a way to make your life and others better. So Stoicism, teaches us to endure. It's a habit. It takes time. It takes effort. It's not going to occur overnight. You have to rewire your brain, your body, and your spirit. But this is a book review and not a Stoicism review. So with that, I'd like to get on to the actual book review itself. So this book is pretty kind of similar to a lot of other books on Stoicism that were written. It's not one long discourse, and this one's not even 2 or 3 long discourses. This book is a series of, I wouldn't even call them essays. It's a series of writings. Some of these excerpts or essays, or just probably journal entries really, are a few sentences. Some are a few paragraphs, and some are a few pages. So there's 2 main subjects that Epictetus asks or covers or tries to explain in this dialogue. And the first is, how do I live a happy and fulfilling life? And the second is, how can I be a good person? I think these are 2 questions that all men, probably all of humanity, should ask themselves on a pretty regular basis. And then, like we talked about before, outside of questioning it, you need to answer it, and then you need to execute it. Now, the book is broken into 2 distinct phases. The first of which is called A Manual for Living. And then the second one is Essential Teachings on Virtue, Happiness, and Tranquility. This book is extremely easy to read. I think I read this book in about 4 sittings over 3 days. And you could easily read it from front to back. You can jump around. Or what may be best is to pick it up and to use it similarly as you would like the Daily Stoic, where instead of reading it from cover, knocked the picture over, instead of reading it from cover to cover, you would say go to page 35, and that's the 35th day of the year. You read that, then you go to 38 or 36 or whatever the case is, and that's your reading for the day. And you would use it almost like an advent calendar, right? Where every day you get a piece of chocolate. Well, every day you get an excerpt or an essay, a dialogue, whatever you want to call it. That may be the better way to go about writing it or reading it, but ultimately it's up to you. I chose the first version where I read it from cover to cover. This was an impulse buy. I don't remember where I was or why I picked this up, but it looked good. I grabbed it off the shelf. I may have read the back. I don't know. I think I just grabbed it because I needed something to read. I do think this book is completely worth owning, and I do intend to get an original version down the road. Like I said, when I bought this almost impulsively, I did not see the small writing right here that said a new version or a new interpretation, which makes sense because sometimes I talk about like vehicles and stuff, which clearly they did not have in the 2nd century and 1st century AD. I don't believe, well, actually, I know for a fact that I have never written in a book as much as I have in this one. The amount of highlighting, the amount of notes that I took, the amount of parentheses I drew, the amount of times I wrote down a quote or a scripture verse or part of another book in this book to back it up. It's a lot, and I really like that, and there's plenty of space in this book. If you can see, at least in this version, how wide those margins are, and since it's short, how much space that you have at the bottom of pages sometimes. So I just flipping through, like you can see how much I wrote in this book and took notes. And I know I harp on it all the time, but I really do think that's important. When I used to read stuff, a decade ago, 5 years ago, I would just read it, and then it would almost be like, well, what did I just read? When you write down your thoughts, when you write down notes, it does help to solidify that knowledge, and you retain it, and you can recall it and act upon it and quote it. Well, maybe not quote it, but paraphrase it and utilize it. And also what it does is it allows you to flip through and go, well, I thought this was important at this point in my life. Do I still hold that importance? Do I still think what I wrote then is true now? So I really do think you should write in books. Maybe not if you're going out and purchasing a vintage book or something like that, but when you're, picking up a modern production paperback, I do think you should write in these. If you're doing it for the sake of studying, then write in it. I think it is worthwhile. With this, like many Greek and Roman philosophical works, there is a huge blend between theology and philosophy. I don't think you can separate the two, personally. I think most philosophy involves theology in some capacity or another, even if it's an attempt to disprove it. And it's just, when it comes to the theological side of this, it's not any specific gods. It's not anyone in the Greek pantheon, the Roman pantheon, in Christianity, anything like that. It just brings up divine nature, God, gods, the universe, things along those lines. So like what I wrote down was, God or a divine essence is needed to fulfill the two main questions that we talked about at the beginning, which were, how do I live a happy and fulfilling life? And how can I be a good person? So I'm clearly not going to read you the entire book. It's not supposed to be an audiobook, and I can't read you all of what I wrote down. So I flipped through this until I found some pages that I jotted on that weren't extremely long. So like I said, it's not an audiobook. So I just wanted to read you a few of them out of here, and I'll read you the title, and you'll get a real sense of how this book is broken down and laid out by me reading a couple passages. And then I'm going to read you what I thought at the time when I wrote this, or when I read this, which, as of making this video, I think I read this book about 3 weeks ago. So long enough ago that I don't remember exactly writing things down, but close enough where I highly doubt that what I wrote down has changed. And when I write in response to these, sometimes they're like I think about them, and other times I just Freudian write them, and it's whatever comes out comes out. So the first one here is recognize appearances for what they really are. From now on, practice saying to everything that appears unpleasant, you are just an appearance and by no means what you appear to be. And then thoroughly consider the matter according to the principles just discussed. Primarily, does this appearance concern the things that are within my own control or those that are not? If it concerns anything outside your control, train yourself not to worry about it. So what I wrote down then was, don't waste your time and energy on things you have no power over. If you're like me, you probably know plenty of people in your personal life, your professional life, or even just in passing on the news, whatever the case is, that something will happen that they have no control over, and it just ruins the rest of their day, their month, or their year. And they spend more mental energy complaining about it than fixing the problem, or simply shrugging it off. It is what it is. I can't control this, and moving on. So we'll move to the next one. This is from page 27. It's called, or the title is, No One Can Hurt You. And again, it's another short one. People don't have the power to hurt you. Even if someone shouts abuse at you or strikes you, if you are insulted, it is always your choice to view what is happening as insulting or not. If someone irritates you, it is only in your own response that is irritating you. Therefore, when anyone seems to be provoking you, remember, that is only your judgment of the incident that provokes you. Don't let emotions get ignited by mere appearances. Try not to merely react in the moment. Pull back from the situation, take a wider view, compose yourself. And then my note that I took, or wrote down, very small, if we don't control our emotions, our emotions will control us. I've known many people to this day, I've done it myself, I think we've all been guilty, where we let our emotional response take over in a knee-jerk reaction, and it can have worse outcomes than just dealing with it. So the next one, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I do these parentheses like this, which means to me that's basically highlighting, but there's too much to highlight. And I just wanted to read that for you. But the title is All Advantages Have Their Price. And so the part that I have, which I actually have an underline under another piece, so I must have thought it was pretty important, is that it is always our choice whether or not we wish to pay the price for life's rewards. And often it is best for us not to pay the price. For the price might be our integrity. We could be forced to praise someone whom we don't respect. So what I wrote was, no reward is worth our integrity. Why sacrifice who we are for ultimately trivial and meager things? And then I have in quotes, let us now lay aside all earthly cares. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys have dealt with it where people are just sucking up to a boss or somebody that they know, and they're saying things that they don't truly believe. And then you put a projection and putting an image out of someone who's not actually you. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes and the less of you actually are. Stand by your morals, stand by what you believe in, and don't worry about what other people think. For the second to last one, I have conduct yourself with dignity. No matter where you find yourself, comport yourself as if you were a distinguished person. While the behavior of many people is directed by what is going on around them, hold yourself to a higher standard. Take care to avoid parties or games where thoughtless revelry and carousing are the norm. And then I highlighted this part. If you find yourself at a public event, remain rooted in your own purpose and ideals. And then I wrote, your ideals are your foundation. Make them sturdy. Be true to yourself regardless of the environment or company. You stick to your morals, stick to your ideals, stick to what you believe in all costs, because if you're willing to say something you don't believe once, it'll happen again and again and again and again. And then the final one is mistreatment comes from false impressions. If people treat you disrespectfully or speak unkindly about you, remember that they do so from their impression that it is right to do so. This part I highlighted, and then I drew an arrow down to my note. It is unrealistic to expect people to see you as you see yourself. If people reach conclusions based on false impressions, they are the ones hurt rather than you, because it is they who are misguided. When someone interprets a true proposition as a false one, the proposition itself isn't hurt. Only the person who holds the wrong view is deceived and thus damaged. Once you clearly understand this, you will be less likely to feel affronted by others, even if they revile you. You can say to yourself, "It seems so to that person, but that is only his impression." And then I'm going to go back to the part I highlighted because it specifically goes to my note, which is, it is unrealistic to expect people to see you as you see yourself. And my note is, do we even see ourselves as our true self? Or are we blinded by our egos, our dreams, by who we want to be rather than who we are? Do we continue to ignore our true self? It is easier to live in delusion and fantasy than it is to face the man in the mirror and change. So this book has a ton of just small little inserts, essays, journal entries, whatever the case is. It was a really easy, really good read. I do recommend that you read it. If you've watched some of my other videos, you'll know I'm very biased towards the Greeks and the Romans in most things, especially when it comes to the philosophical and Stoic works. With that, before I come to a closing, don't confuse Stoicism for what it has been. What's the word I want? For what pop culture and the manosphere and all those have bastardized it to be. It's not this misogynistic alpha male, I don't care what you think about me, I'm going to do what I want, get money, get cars and all that. It has nothing to do with that. So please don't think that's where I'm coming from with that. Now, when it comes to this, if you could, down in the comments or whatever, let me know what your thoughts on the passages I read were. Do you agree or disagree with what Epictetus said? Do you agree or disagree with what I said? Do you subscribe to Stoicism? If you do, why or why not? And with that, that was my brief review of The Art of Living, the classical manual on virtue, happiness, and effectiveness by Epictetus, specifically a new interpretation by Sharon Lebell. I appreciate you guys watching as always. I'm going to continue doing these videos as long as I find them fun or until you guys want more. And with that, I hope you have a really great night, day, or whatever time you're watching this. And be safe and have a great day.